Hello, this is Nathan Heinrich, and you're listening to the I'm Moving to Italy podcast. So, this is the first time I have sat down with a microphone, and this is episode 1. I can't hardly believe that I've actually talked myself into doing this, but let me explain why I'm doing this, and I'll just take it one step at a time here. So, I've been planning this move to Italy for quite a while, at least 2 years. And recently I started listening to podcasts, and I thought, surely there's got to be a podcast out there about someone's experience moving to Italy. So as I kind of searched around, I didn't find a single podcast sharing someone's move to Italy from the United States. And I know lots of people have done it, but I don't think anyone has actually documented it the way I'm hoping to do here. I've heard some podcasts about some trips to Italy, and there's people on YouTube who moved from different places in Europe to Italy, even some that have moved to, some people that I follow that have moved from the United States and have a YouTube show, but I haven't found a podcast specifically about the process of moving to Italy, and then once you're in Italy, what life is like once you get there. So that's what this podcast essentially is going to be. It's going to be my experience moving from New York to Italy. So again, I'm Nathan Heinrich. I am originally from California. I was born and raised in a farming community in Northern California. I grew up in a little place called Wood Colony, and my family grows walnuts, almonds, and grapes. In fact, I grew up actually in a vineyard, and I have a very large family. We had lots of animals. I have 2 sisters and 6 brothers. We have horses and cows and goats and everything on the ranch. And I spent the first, at least 20 some years of my life living there, and it was an incredible life. And so I went to college, got a couple degrees, one in horticulture and botany, and the other one in landscape architecture, and then started working in the nursery and horticulture industry for a few years after college, and then eventually started my own design company and event design and production company, with kind of an emphasis on green design and incorporating live plants, things that weren't really as common at the time when I started about 12 years ago with my business. Bringing in lots of live plants and greenery that could be then sold or returned to a nursery where I had got them, or planted in someone's yard or something. My business was Nathan Heinrich Design. If you're interested for whatever reason, I still have a website, so you could check out nathanheinrichdesign.com, see some of my work. And it was a pretty incredible career. It took me all over the United States. I did a lot of work in San Francisco, in the Bay Area, Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, and internationally as well. So I did that for about 12 years. And one time I was working in New York, and I had made some friends here, and I was kind of ready for a change in my life. I didn't know, at the time I was living in Sacramento, I didn't know what kind of change I was looking for. And so I was visiting some friends, and they owned a house a really beautiful house in Nyack, New York, which is about 20 minutes up the Hudson River from Manhattan. And being kind of a country kid, a farm boy, the idea of living in a big concrete jungle of a city like New York City didn't really appeal to me. So I discovered this little piece of property that was almost 2 acres, 20 minutes from Manhattan. There was woods, there's a stream, a little carriage house, a 200-year-old carriage house. And I ended up buying the house and moving to New York and kind of stopped being an event and production designer and started doing something else I really wanted to do, which I had always wanted to do and hadn't had the opportunity to do, which was kind of explore writing and acting. I did everything from dinner theater and stand-up comedy to a live comedy show in Manhattan. And I did commercials. I did independent films. I even did some set designing, and I did some location scouting, and it was kind of a wild and incredible 5 years here in New York. I still went back and forth to California where I had some clients and still did some design work, but most of that, I had gotten pretty burnt out, to be honest, with all the travel and all the stress of trying to get corporate events and weddings and private parties, and the amount of stress that would go into producing an event, designing an event, setting it up, and a year or more of planning and all the travel and getting all the products and all the logistics and all of the labor and all of this on-site permits and requirements, and then the setup and then the teardown, and at the end of the event, all you really had was maybe the photos, assuming that the rights to those photos hadn't been sold maybe to a magazine or to a news outlet or something. So sometimes I wasn't even allowed to photograph my own work and use my own photos. So yeah, I just kind of got burnt out on the event business. So I got to explore the life of being an actor and a writer in New York, and that's been pretty incredible. During the course of living in New York, I also fell in love and got married. When I was 21, I was in Italy for the first time, and I had met a young man and his father, and I was there with a group of my friends in college, and his father was Italian, but his father had an American mother who was from the United States, and so he could speak English. And anyway, it just so happened that we happened to be at this cafe in Rome, and we all started talking, and this man Vincenzo was there with his son Alessandro, and his son was getting ready to I was 21 at the time, and Alessandro was 17, and his dad was telling us that his son is getting ready to go to Scotland to go to college, because he had earned a special kind of an honorary year to travel abroad, and he was going to be in Scotland, and he was going to be practicing his English, and so this was in 2002, long before social media. So his dad asked if we would all be interested in sharing email addresses so that we could kind of communicate with Alessandro and practice his Italian, with Americans. Or practice his English with Americans. And so, yeah, we did. We stayed in contact a little bit. And then, over time, we kind of lost touch. And then about 10 years later, after social media kind of came, through Facebook, I think, we reconnected and just kind of, again, had a kind of a casual connection through social media. And then when I moved to New York, Alessandro saw from my social media that I had moved to New York, and we kind of reconnected again. That was in 2015, and Alessandro came about 6 months after I moved to New York. He came here for a visit, and what ended up being the biggest surprise of my life, because I never thought I would get married to a man. I had always dated women, and I had come to the conclusion, well, I'm not going to be dating women anymore. I need to be honest with myself, in spite of my really conservative upbringing and trying to, placate my family and not cause any waves and not be, bring shame to the family, to my Christian, really wonderful family, but my very conservative Christian family. I didn't want to, do something that I knew was going to upset them, regardless of whether it was going to hurt me or not. I had kind of come to the conclusion that I was going to be living my life solo. And I was kind of excited to be moving to New York. And Alessandro, who had, during those years that we weren't really in contact, he had gone to college. He had gotten 2 PhDs. He was a psychotherapist and a psychiatrist, and actually also a hypnotherapist. And so he had been working in hospitals and had a private practice. And yeah, I totally did not expect to move to New York, fall in love, and get married to a man. And we did it. We got married in 2016 at City Hall in Manhattan. It was so simple and so crazy. No one was there. None of my friends or family were there. We went and did it completely on our own. Partly because if we hadn't done it, well, I had decided, like, this is a person I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. Like, he's the most incredible human being I've ever met. He's interesting. He's intelligent. He's handsome. He's everything that I would want in a human being. He's honest. He's kind. He's not a pushover. He challenges me. He's just an incredible human being and Italian. And so, yeah, he was here for several months, and he was gonna have to go back to Italy because he was, I think he could only be here for 6 months at a time. And so I'm like, what am I really, for the first time in my life, I didn't overthink something. I just jumped in and was like, okay, I'm doing this. And so we got married. And I'm sure if I had thought about it too much, I would have been too terrified to do it. And I would have let my logical brain get in the way of my heart and my emotions. But I didn't allow that to happen. And I'm so grateful that I didn't, because we just celebrated our 4th anniversary, and it has been the most incredible adventure together. Some really tough times, but some really amazing times. And yeah, it's the best thing I ever did. So hopefully, I know I don't know how much of this I'm going to edit out of the final episode, but I'm just talking, and whether I leave all this in or not, I don't know yet. I've never talked publicly about this. I have never shared this on social media. I'm a very private person, and so one of the things that I made sure going into the planning and the thought behind setting up and starting this podcast is I may not share everything about my life, but whatever I do share, I'm going to be super honest and transparent about. I'm still a very private person. I'm not going to share everything about my life. That's just not who I am. But also, I don't think I would want to listen to a podcast, someone talking, if I wasn't getting a real clear picture of what their reality was. Anyway, fast forward to, we went to Italy and California many times, and things are have gotten much better with my family. I don't expect, I didn't ever expect to have a full 100% unreserved blessing from my family about my marriage to Alessandro, because the reality is I respect their right to A, not understand, B, to need some time to adjust, and C, I don't think there's a family out there that agrees about everything. And so my goal with my family has been to treat them with the same love and respect that I would like to get in return. And then that's all I can do. That's all I'm responsible for. So anyway, we've made trips to California together. We've made a number of trips to Italy together. I've been able to spend some really wonderful time with Alessandro's family in Italy, who are my Italian in-laws, which is still incredible when I hear myself say that. The fact that I have Italian in-laws is a really beautiful and exciting thing. So a little bit about Alessandro and his family. Alessandro grew up in Naples, in Vomero, which is a really cool little pocket of the city of Naples. There's a funicle. There's an Italian song, funiculi, funicula. Anyway, there's a funiculi that goes, I think I'm saying that right, that goes up the hill to this little village of Vomero with this beautiful views overlooking the Naples Bay. Well, we say Naples here. Italians say Napoli. I actually kind of prefer Napoli, and usually I say that now. But anyway, so Alessandro's family, his grandmother was from Sicily, and his grandfather, his mother's mother was from Sicily. His mother's father was from Naples, and so they got married. And anyway, and then Alessandro's father was also from Naples. So about 15 years ago, Alessandro's family, like a lot of Italian families, moved up to northern Italy in the Prosecco Valley, about an hour from Venice, near the Dolomiti Mountains. And so that's where they live. And so that's where we've spent a lot of time with them. And so we plan to get a place up north, I think, with the family. And then also, really, I think, and Alessandro still, his heart is still down in Napoli, in the Sorrento and the Amalfi Coast area. So I think that's where we're going to have our main residence in Italy is going to be there. So, but I don't want to get too far ahead of myself about that. For the past 4.5 or so years, we have been working on getting Alessandro his American citizenship, his dual American citizenship. And it's been a real process. We have a wonderful lawyer that is helping us with the process. And they're immigration lawyers. In fact, he is Italian-American. Thomas is Italian-American. And Ada, his wife, is from Taiwan. And so they are an interracial couple who went through the whole process and they help other people. So they've been really wonderful in helping Alessandro and I get his citizenship. So Alessandro got his green card. That was a 2-year provisional green card, and now he's just waiting to get his 10-year green card. And that's kind of a long, lengthy, somewhat expensive process to get done. Lots of documentation to prove, the marriage is legitimate and that, there's not a scam going on. And so we're just kind of waiting on that final paperwork before next year he's actually able to get his naturalized American citizenship. So he's a citizen and doesn't have to have his green card. So and I'm also we've kind of been also working a little bit when we go to Italy on getting my dual Italian citizenship. So we've just mainly been focusing on Alessandro's citizenship for the U.S. And so we're almost there. I think we're about 6 months away from that process. 6 months to a year away from that process being completely finished. And so that's something I'm going to really be also documenting in this podcast is Italian citizenship and what it takes to get that. And there's a lot of different people that can get it. You can get it from great-grandparents now. You can get it from grandparents. You can get it from moving to Italy and starting a business. So there's you can get it through marrying an Italian like I did. So there's a whole bunch of different things, and I'm going to be going into all of that in this podcast. So back to right now. So the little carriage house that I bought in New York, I'm sitting upstairs right now on my sofa looking out the window. It's November 9th, and it's a beautiful day. There's incredible fall colors. There's nothing like fall in New York. It is just incredible. And we're kind of at the end. We're past the peak of the fall color for sure, but there's a red oak right outside the window, and there's a pin oak. And some of the oaks and some of the beech are yellow and red, and so some of those are still holding onto their leaves, and it's just absolutely incredible to look out the window and see some of the fall color right now. So this is 2020, And everyone that hasn't been living under a rock knows we've been going through a wild year of pandemic. It's been rough for a lot of people. And one of the things that's been happening, especially here in New York, is, as I'm sure many of you have been following on our news, is that a lot of people, New York City, Manhattan Island, is not the most desirable place to be right now. So a lot of people during lockdown started kind of trying to make a contingency plan, or maybe kind of rethinking, like, since I can work remotely, I don't need to be in the city. I don't need to pay these exorbitant rent, because rent, was just absolutely had gotten out of control in Manhattan. You had to pay at least $3,000 for just a tiny little shoebox of a place. And there were a lot of people that were paying $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month just for a really, really basic apartment. So a lot of people locked down, working remotely, were like, why don't we go somewhere else? Either stay in an Airbnb, or let's go buy a place outside the city. So that led to a really, really hot real estate market, just right where my house is here in Nyack, New York, which is just 20 minutes outside of Manhattan. And so the housing prices here have really gone up. So one of the silver linings, personally, for being in this part of New York during the pandemic, is that the house that I own really appreciated in value quite a bit, really fast. And I was already planning, we were already planning to sell in the spring. But what we ended up doing was we ended up going down to, because we traveled quite a bit, we had this house set up as an Airbnb. And so I started getting a lot of requests for medical workers, doctors that were coming into the area to help out, because New York was really hit hard. So I had a lot of doctors, nurses, and medical professionals coming into the area that needed places to stay. They didn't want to stay in a hotel. A lot of hotels weren't even open. And so one of the best solutions was Airbnb. So we opened up our home to rent out to medical professionals. And anyway, so we ended up renting our home basically from April to October on Airbnb. And it was rented almost that entire period with just a few breaks in the middle. And we ended up going down to Georgia and southern Tennessee and stayed down there. We may end up buying a piece of property there just so we have something in the United States, so that we have a place to stay when we come back to the United States. But I'll talk about that another time. But anyway, we spent most of the pandemic lockdown quarantine period down in Tennessee, southern Tennessee, Chattanooga area. And that was really a great experience. Really fell in love with Chattanooga and that whole area. And so in the meantime, I had some friends who were real estate experts, and they had sold a lot of property for sale by owner. And when I told them I was planning to sell the house and I had a real estate agent lined up to buy the property, they said, you can probably sell that house yourself and save yourself, a 6% commission. You could save yourself, a good $30,000 if you just sell it yourself. And so I came back up to New York. I shot a video and took lots of pictures of the interior of the house, all the rooms, the exterior, the beautiful property, the trees, the stream, and everything. And I listed my house for sale by owner on Zillow. And I even put on my Airbnb listing that the house was going to be available for sale pretty soon. So I listed the house in August, and I got so many offers and so much interest. And the house basically was sold. I found, the buyer. I got a lot of offers over asking. And the best part is the buyer that I ended up going with and signing the contract with, separate from the purchase, they are also buying all the furniture. I had quite a bit of vintage and antique furniture in the house, and so they're buying the house furnished so that they don't have to go out and buy all new furniture, and they can also continue to use the house as an Airbnb rental when they're not here, because they both travel a lot for work. So anyway, it's just kind of ended up being an incredible... I know it's been a really challenging year for a lot of folks this year, and I've had my fair share of challenges. I actually lost 3 family members this year, so that's been a struggle. But I'm very grateful for the fact that I was able to sell my house to somebody really wonderful this year, and that's been kind of the silver lining of this challenging year, and also this just the political turmoil that our poor country has gone through this year. I mean, we've all just it's been rough, and I think we're coming towards the end of 2020, and I think we're starting to all breathe a sigh of relief. It was important for me to record this first episode here in New York, because this really is the starting point. I've started to tell people in the past couple months, I've started telling them I'm moving to Italy. And I've heard myself say that. And that's kind of where I came up with the name for the podcast. I mean, it's a very simple, straightforward name, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm moving to Italy. And really, it was a very conscious choice that was made long before the pandemic, long before politics got super crazy in this country. And I have been writing. I'm hoping to finish my second book by the end of this year. Maybe not have it ready to publish, but at least have the first draft of the book finished. That's been amazing. It's another silver lining of 2020. So I want to be in Italy to write. I want to be in Italy for the language and the culture, for the food, for the healthy lifestyle. I really think that I'm hoping Italy makes me healthier. I've gained some weight, for sure, over the last, 8 or 9 months. And just, the American lifestyle is not always the healthiest. We get in a car, or we get in a bus, or we get on a train, we go to work, and then we go home. And one of the beautiful things about Italy is the way their cities are set up is they walk. They take trains and cars, but they also do a lot of walking. And that's one cultural difference that I have found. People in our cities walk as well, but most Americans live in a home and drive to and from their home. And so I'm looking forward to being much more active with gardening, walking, healthier eating habits. And that's another thing I'm going to be sharing is how my move to Italy has affected my health, my weight, just my overall well-being. So that's going to be an adventure. I've always wanted to speak another language. I mean, growing up in California, I had lots of friends that were Mexican, and so I spoke a lot of Spanish. Not great, but I could speak and understand Spanish, fairly well. I spent some time in Mexico, but it was never enough. But to actually move to another country and live there, I've never spent more than a few months abroad. I've traveled a lot, but I've not lived in a place. And, other than the United States, other than California and New York. So to live in another country, now I love people. I love family. I love making new friends. I love talking to strangers. I love people so much that I know it's going to be imperative for me, in order for me to be happy in Italy. And I've been working on my Italian, for several years now. I'm certainly not fluent. I can understand a lot now. It's going to be very important for me to speak Italian, because I'm going to want to interact with Italians. And I'm hoping that by this same time next year, I'm anticipating being in a completely different place with my Italian. So that's going to be something that that's going to be fun to share on this podcast is how that process goes. The other thing is the weather. Growing up in California, which is a Mediterranean climate, on a farm, on a ranch, where, growing things in gardens was part of my family. We grew a lot of vegetables and corn and green beans and, peaches and nectarines and cherries and strawberries and citrus, and almonds and walnuts and grapes. And California, I didn't realize how spoiled I was in California with produce and fresh fruits and vegetables, and just to be able to grow things year round. I mean, you can have a winter garden, you can have a spring and summer garden, and a fall garden in California. You can grow year round, even when it's a little chilly. In New York, I mean, I struggled the first couple of years to try to grow things here, and I finally was like, I kind of just gave up and started growing things inside my house. I have fig trees, and I would grow vegetables inside, but that's one thing. 7 months of winter that you really can't grow anything here. I mean, you really can't you can't start really growing things in New York until the end of May. And then it starts getting cold again in October. So you really have just, a handful of months that are the growing season here in New York. And that's just not been enough for my desire to grow things. I mean, you can't grow citrus trees here. You can't. I tried planting persimmon trees twice, 2 different years, and they died both times because it got too cold outside. I tried growing asparagus. I tried growing so many different things here, and it just didn't happen. And what I've realized is I need to be somewhere where I can garden, where I can grow my own fruits and vegetables. And so that's another thing I'm going to be really excited about sharing in this podcast is gardening in Italy. I mean, what an incredible gift to be able to garden in Italy, to be able to grow things, to grow trees and maybe have chickens and maybe have, edible but also a beautiful garden. So anyway, I'm super excited about that. I think that being able to make my own olive oil. I've got all these exciting things I want to do. Everything from citrus and making limoncello and olive oil and I'm a major fan of citrus, and so to be able, I want to grow every imaginable variety of citrus, tangerines to blood oranges and lemons and limes, and so anyway, I'm going to be sharing also through I have Instagram, and I will be also starting a YouTube channel. So even though this is all this format, the podcast format is very it's all auditory. There's nothing visual. I'm going to be sharing the visual aspects of this on Instagram and YouTube. So anyone who decides to follow this podcast, if anyone does, will be able to see what I'm talking about. I can describe things to a degree, but I'll be able to share the visual sides of what I'm doing through those other platforms. Maybe you're listening to this, whoever the you is that's listening to this. Maybe you're listening to this, whether you're in your car or you're, on your phone, or you have headphones in your ear, wherever you're hearing this from. Maybe you have dreamed about moving abroad, moving to another country or another state or another city or place or whatever. Or maybe specifically you've thought about moving to Italy. I think a lot of us have thought about moving to Italy. This will be an opportunity for you to live vicariously through me, but also see maybe if it's something you'd like to do. If you searched for moving to Italy podcast and you found this, you're probably interested in at least the idea of moving to Italy. So the other thing I wanted to mention is I think we all have things that hold us back. One of the things that is a weakness of mine and that kind of holds me back and terrifies me is, and honestly has motivated me in wrong directions in the past, has been what people think about me. And so as I was contemplating and thinking about doing this podcast, one of the things that really went through my mind as a reason not to do it was, what are people going to think? I'm going to get judgment from people. I'm going to get people, they're going to judge my relationship. For one, they're going to judge my motives for moving to Italy. They're going to judge my authenticity. They're going to judge probably everything and think all kinds of things about me and me doing this. And that, I have allowed that in my life in the past to hold me back from doing certain things because I cared more about what people thought than about what is right for me. What do I want to do? And so I'm done with that. I'm not saying that I'm over it, that it doesn't still bother me and still that I don't still think about it, but I'm done letting that and what I assume people are thinking about me, or what maybe people really are thinking about me. I'm done letting that be much of an influence in my life. So this is an exercise. Making this podcast, sitting down, but going out and buying the microphone, getting that set up with the software, finding the place where I'm going to record, finding the time, making it happen, committing to it, doing it is an exercise in me saying, you know what? I don't care if people judge me. I don't care if people from my hometown or people that have known me think that it's pretentious, or think that it's arrogant of me, or think that it's me trying to show off, or me trying to, I don't know, all the things that they could think. This is me saying, okay, you're free to think what you want, and I'm free to live my life. Nothing about this process is me showing off. Nothing about this process is me. This is me doing something that I am so excited and passionate and have dreamed about doing for as long as I can remember. It's not a whim. It's not a decision I made lightly. And it's something that I'm sure there will be times that I might even come to regret it and question why I did it. But I'm still doing it. And so this is me getting over that. One concern that's crossed my mind that I think I'm probably going to encounter is feeling isolated, feeling cut off. While there's a lot of people in Italy that speak English, and while Alessandro speaks English, for me to really be part and feel like I'm part of the culture and the society in Italy, I'm going to need to be fluent in Italian, and that's going to take a while. I know it's going to take a while. And I am anticipating feeling in limbo for a while, because I watched Alessandro go through it. I watched him struggle with not feeling like he fit into the United States and kind of longing for some normalcy. Even though he stayed in touch, and we've he's on the phone often with his family and friends in Italy, and he's made friends here in the United States that are wonderful, and he loves them and they love him. He had me, and I was not a good substitute for his life in Italy. I was just me. So, I can't expect Alessandro to feel that void, any more than I was able to fill it for him. So I'm anticipating feeling like I'm in limbo, like I'm disconnected, and I'm going to do everything I can to try to make some friendships with people maybe that speak English, not so I can use them as a crutch, but just so that my transition into Italy is a little smoother. Fortunately, Italy is one of those wonderful countries, unlike the United States, where people oftentimes are bilingual. A lot of times they speak other languages like French or English there. So there's a lot of English-speaking people, or people that can speak a little English or enough English, So that's going to be, I think that's going to make it much better. But I am anticipating a period of where I miss my family, I miss my friends. I know that me moving to Italy is going to affect my relationships with my family and my friends in California for the rest of my life. So I'm making this conscious choice, knowing that while there are going to be a lot of real great positives and a lot of pluses and upsides to this move to Italy, there's also going to be some sacrifices too. And I'm not unaware of that. This move across the country, 3,000 miles from California to New York, was certainly, the last 5 years have really shown me that, I miss out on a lot with my family. So I'm going to try to figure out how to maybe, when I do go home to visit my friends and family in California, but especially my family, that when I do go, I stay for a longer period and I really, really make it count and go at least twice a year, but maybe 3 times a year. My favorite times in California are the spring, February, when all the almond blossoms are in bloom. So everything's green in California in February, and in A lot of things are starting to bloom, and so I would like to be able to be in California during, maybe the month of February every year, and then maybe again, in the fall. So that's my plan. But I know that I'm gonna be missing out, and it's gonna be painful. It already has been, and I know it's gonna be more so. I'm really hoping. My family didn't come and visit much in New York while I was here. A few people did. My parents did, and my sisters did a couple times. But mostly I went and visited everyone in California because it's just easier for me. I'm just one person. Going to California is a lot easier than a whole family, flying across the country. So I totally understand. But I'm really hoping that my family, even though everyone's got kids and babies and school and all that stuff, I'm hoping that my family is able to come and visit me in Italy, and that will mean a lot. And so we'll just see. We'll see how it goes. I'm sure it's going to be. I mean, I have no idea what it's going to actually be like. One of the things that's an advantage right now of moving to Italy and buying property is that property values in Italy have really taken a hit over the last few years, and this pandemic has made things even worse for the Italian property market. So purchasing property right now in Italy is a real plus. So we're pretty grateful that we're in a window where the property values in New York are high and the property values in Italy are low. That's kind of one of those serendipitous situations that I know doesn't always happen. So I'm really grateful for that. When you buy your first house in Italy, which this will be my first home in Italy, I don't have to pay property taxes on my first home. So that's a plus for moving to Italy, not just right now, but just in general. Of course, the healthcare system over there is really great because they have free healthcare, universal healthcare. So that's wonderful. Politics. I'm really looking forward to getting out and getting away from the static and the noise that is our political system. And I have been so bad about getting sucked up into it. All the negativity, all of the reading hours and hours and hours of every week of news stories, watching it, listening to it, on YouTube, on podcasts, on TV, on the news app on my phone. And I need a break. I really, really need a break. I think most of us need a break, but that's going to be one of the positive things for me for moving to Italy. And I don't plan to get sucked up into the Italian political system because they've got their whole own situation over there. But anyway, so some of the disadvantages right now of going to Italy are the exchange rate. The exchange rate is not in the favor of the dollar right now. It's I just checked, and I think today the exchange rate is it takes $1.18 to make €1. So it's almost 20% discrepancy between the two currencies. So for if something costs €1 at a shop, you're gonna have to pay $1.18, $1.20 almost for that. So that's not a great thing. And from what I'm hearing, that's going to get even more out of balance. Like I've heard some people predict that it could go up to 1.30. It could be, €1 equals $1.30. So we'll see what happens with that. Another disadvantage is Italy is struggling. Italy, as most of us know, that have been following, Italy was hit first and hit the hardest in the world. And they're starting to go into a second set of lockdowns that is really causing a lot of people to be put back into a really tough situation. I don't have the answers. There's a lot of people that seem to think that they've got all the answers. I don't pretend to have them. I know there's a lot of experts and there's a lot of people that say very contradictory things. All I know is that I hope we can respect each other. I don't know what ultimately it's going to be. I do know that the podcast is going to evolve, and I'm going to put in a solid year and see what happens with the podcast. I'm committing to a year. I don't know if it blows up and turns into something really wonderful, then I'll do it, indefinitely. But if I'm certainly going to do a full year, and I would like to do at least one episode a week. So That's my goal, to record an episode every week. I don't know how. I don't know. It'll be a 15-minute episode right now. I'm looking that I'm already up to 39 minutes. I don't know. I feel like 39 minutes is a long time. Although I know some people's podcasts go longer, but I have no idea what it's going to turn into because this is day one and I'm not even in Italy. I'm in New York. So I know it's going to evolve. I definitely love people, so I think it's going to be character driven. I'm going to make it as descriptive as possible. I'm going to share the ups and the downs because I know there's going to be both. I'm not going to pretend like, this is just La Dolce Vita, the sweet life in Italy that Americans and others tend to, I think we tend to romanticize what living in Italy is. I think Italy is wonderful and a romantic thing to do. I don't think it's all, without peaches and cream, I don't think it's without its challenges too. And I'm anticipating, that there will be challenges. So I'm going to share those. But I think it will be character driven. And as I get to know and meet people in Italy, it's going to be, I'm going to share, without disrespecting people's privacy. I'm going to share about the people that I meet, the people that are in my life. I might interview some of them. I actually love the idea of interviewing people. I just don't know how that's going to play out. I don't know how that's going to work. So I might do more interviews on my YouTube channel. And then maybe this will be just me talking. I really have no idea, like I said, how it's going to go. I know that Italy is starting to lock down again, and people are really not happy about it because they've been struggling. There's been no tourism. Tourism is a huge part of the Italian economy, and they've basically had almost no tourism at all this year. It's been a complete loss. And so not only are they struggling, and they're coming to, at the end, certainly at the end of tourist season, which didn't even happen, but now they're going into winter months, which are always the slower months for most businesses. And so I really feel for people in Italy who have businesses or who have livelihoods that are being affected by this. Same with Americans. It's just such a heartbreaking situation. So again, we just hope and pray that there's a vaccine soon. So that's one of the kind of the negatives are the lockdowns. Moving to Italy right now, but we'll figure it out. There's also some unrest in Europe and right now in general, the European countries and the European Union, in relation to the UK and Brexit and all of that. There's some European countries saying that they're tired of having countries like poorer countries like Greece and Italy and Greece and Spain and even a little bit Italy. Countries like France and Germany are saying, this isn't working for us anymore. But also they've got Brexit that they're doing. So it's not like Italy is like this perfect world escaping the United States to go to this perfect place. I don't think that's what the situation is at all. So one of the things I want this podcast to be is I want it to be fun. I'm going to share the upsides, the downsides, the humor, all of that. I'm going to be exploring. I'm going to be exploring not only Italy, but I'm going to be exploring Europe and the whole Mediterranean area. So I'm going to be taking you guys, the listeners, I'm going to be taking you all along with me as I explore places like, my family are from Switzerland and Scandinavia, Sweden and Norway, and I think also Germany. That's where the majority of my family are from. So I've been to Switzerland and Germany, but I've never been to Sweden and Norway. So when I go to Sweden and Norway, it's easy to get there from Italy. So I'll be definitely documenting that, with pictures. And anyway, I think that's probably just about it. I think I've covered it. Yeah, it's my last week in New York, and I feel like I was able to kind of document this kind of taking off point, this launch pad to Italy, and I'm glad I actually was brave enough to do it. And Thank you guys. Anyone who's listened to this and made it all the way to this point, thank you so much. That means a lot. Again, I'm committing to a year. Maybe it'll be a decade. Maybe it'll be longer. I have no idea. Technology changes. I'm going to change, the world's going to change, but I'm definitely going to put in one full year, one podcast episode a week, and we'll see where it goes. I'm kind of excited to let it evolve and grow. Off we go on this incredible adventure together. I can't tell you how much you mean. The fact that you're here listening, supporting, and encouraging me, it means the world to me. So I hope I'm able to bring you something that inspires you, excites you, that fills your imagination with possibilities, and empowers you to do something that you've been dreaming about. So thanks again so much. Until next time, stay healthy, stay well, and God bless. Ciao.